Hey everyone, welcome to codesimple. In this video, we are going to create an API, which is post API, that would going to be populate a master table and a child table with multiple records. This is our existing application where we have book table, author table, and the mapping table between book and author called book author we have, and we have user table for authentication. So now what we are going to do is we are going to create one more table called edition. Okay, it is called book edition table. So we'll be having a book with first edition, second edition, third edition, so on, right? So a single book can have multiple editions. So for that we are going to create another table called book edition table. Similarly to this is let's consider this is a book table we have, and we'll be going to create another table called edition, which will contain book ID, okay, the master ID, that is called book ID, and then all the properties. So we are going to create something similar to this. Let's go to our IntelliJ. This is the bookstore API, and let me go open the book controller. Okay, the book controller, we have many endpoints already, and one of the endpoint is posting the book. Okay, so I'll open the Insomnia, and here you can see this is the create books API, which is post API, and you can see the endpoint here. It's called books, and we are giving name, description, year of publication, and book type. So we will be modifying this create books in order to accept some more items for the edition. Okay, let's consider we are giving an edition like this as an array, and in this each array we are going to give our book edition things. Okay, let's say ISBN number, okay, let's go and create this changes first, right? So now I'm going to IntelliJ, and if you see here, this is my, I'll reduce this one. So this is my create book, this is the books endpoint, and this accepts a book. A book is nothing but entity class which we created, but ultimately we will be going to remove this entity class, and we will be creating a DTO. Okay, so now I'll just go through what we have already. You will understand now. So this is a service class which we have create books. First we are validating it. If any validation error, we are throwing bad request, else we are creating a book. It's a simple straightforward. Okay, I'll go back to the book controller, and here let's say I'll be checking whether I have any other called book DTO. Okay, I have book DTO, which contains ID, name, description, year of publication. Okay, so I don't want to change. I mean, this I think I created for get API, so I don't want to touch this one. So let me copy only this, and we'll create one new brand new one class called what we can give book request DTO, right? Because this is a request means it's a post API. If we want to give it back as a get API means it's a response. So like that we can name it. So I'll just put book request DTO, and I'll create a class. Here I'm going to create, these are all instance variable. Okay, and then I'll be adding some more details also here. Let's say this is called private book edition. Okay, DTO, and this will be list of, so list of this one and editions. Okay, so I'll be going to add something like this, and for this DTO I need to create one more DTO to hold all the book edition information. So I'm going to create another one. I'll be creating a string for ISBN number. and I'm going to create getter and setter methods for all of this. Okay, and this edition DTO is ready, so I'm just closing this. Okay, this is already imported. Okay, now the error is gone. If you see, it is referring to this class, right? So this books DTO only I'm going to use it in books controller. So I'm going to modify this one to books DTO, and I'm going to import books DTO. I'll just rename this one to book DTO for a naming convention. And why it is throwing an error is because the create book accepts only the book entity. So let's change this also. Here it will create, here we are again going to pass book request DTO, and this I'm renaming to book DTO, right? And then okay, so here my validation class also I need to be changed accordingly. Let's go and change this, and my validation takes book. So now let me put book response DTO, and this is again renaming to book DTO. Now book DTO doesn't contain name, okay, because I've not created a getter setters method. Okay, for all created this, and error is gone everywhere in the validation classes. And in the save method, so for save I need to give the entity class, right? But this is a DTO class, that's why it is throwing an error. So for that, what I'm going to do is, let me create a book with book as a variable name and book interface, book class. Now book dot set name we will be setting from the book DTO. Book DTO dot get name. So name, book type, DTA, description, year of publication, and I'll be giving a book to this save entity. Okay, I can get the edition here, book DTO dot get edition. Okay, so book edition, get edition is a list. Okay, because we have set this as a list here, list of book edition. So I'll be getting this as a list. So what I'll be going to do is now first create the entity class for edition and repo class, and then I will be coming to the service class. Okay, for this I'll be going to the entity package, right click, new Java, and here I'm going to give the name called book edition. Okay, and enter. So this is my entity class, so I'll be annotating with @entity, and what and all columns I'll be going to have it here is book long ID. This is the primary key, so I'll be annotating with ID. Okay, and this will be generated value will be, I'll be giving to the strategy, I'll choose auto. So what this means is it will be auto incremented. Now the next column would be book edition. We'll be having a integer with the price, private, again an integer with page size. Then I'll be going to have string of description. What else we have added here? I think one as ISBN, yeah, that is main. So private string ISBN. Alt insert to get this option to generate getters and setter, and I'm going to create for all the instance variable. Right now, our entity class is created, so I'm not creating any table here. Okay, so whenever I start the application, it will automatically create. So how it will be creating is, I just added, if you see my configuration for this, I added, see, this is a Spring JPA Hibernate, and DLL is update. That means it's if it is not there, it will just create it. Okay, let me start this application. Whenever we are starting application, our Spring will see the entity annotation, and if it is not there, it will create. Okay, we have some issues here. You have error in your some MySQL error description is oh, okay. So we have used DSE as a column name, but that is a reserved keyword in MySQL. It is called the designing. So let me rename this. Okay, so updated now, and let me start the application. Now let's see whether table is getting generated or not. Yep, so we'll verify once. I'll refresh this page. Okay, you can see book edition here, and going to the structure, ID is a primary key, auto increment, fine. Okay, so let's go back to IntelliJ here, and the main thing is book edition should contain book ID, right? So we don't have any book ID here, so how we'll be adding that also now. Private, and I'll be adding book entity here, and a variable name, instance variable called book. And if you see, this book edition is something like a multiple one. For one book, we'll be going to create multiple editions, right? So it will be one book and multiple edition. So what is the relationship? Book is the one and edition is multiple. Now we are going to persist the book ID in edition table, correct? So we are going to add one more called book ID here. So in perspective of book edition table, the relationship is many edition have only one book. So for that, I'll be going to mark this particular instance as many to one. A perspective of book edition table, we are going to have multiple book with same ID, and we need to make sure this is joining with that book table, right? Book table ID column. So I need to give join column annotation here, and name is, I'll be marking as book underscore ID, and then reference column name is, in our book table, what is the corresponding ID? It is called ID only. Book table we have ID column, so I'll be marking as ID. Let's see our Hibernate is going to create that mapping or not. Go to here, refresh this. Yes, see, this is a book edition structure. Here one more is added, which is called book ID, and this is a key, indexed key. Okay, if you see here, it is automatically created. That's why it gives some unique name we need to give it. So that's why it is given something like this, and it is referring to book ID column. Okay, so that's pretty much we have here, right? And also we'll generate a getter and setter for this book also. Okay, for this again, alt insert and getter and setter and book generated. So here if you see, get book and set book is done. So for set book, we need to pass book entity class. Okay, now we created the entity class, so I'll be going back to the repo and right click this repo, new Java interface. Okay, and I'll be going to name this as book edition repository and enter. And since this is a repository, so I'll be marking this as annotation at repository. Okay, and this is extends my JPA CRUD repository. Okay, and this will take first param as my entity class, so it is book edition, and second is the primary key for this book edition, that is primary key is id, that data type is long, so it is long. That's it. We created a repository as well. Now going back to the book service. Okay, let's first create a dummy book edition. For this I needed to auto-wire book edition here, so at auto-wire private book edition repository, and I'm giving the name for this as this. We'll be copying this. Instead of I save this book repository here, I'll be saving it after here, and then here I'll be returning book, because this return type is book entity. I'm not going to change anything on this right now. Book edition repository. For this I need to pass some book edition repo here object, so I'm going to create new book edition entity here with a name like this and a new object. Okay, so now book edition dot set, see now it is a set book. I am going to give this book. Okay, I'm not going to do anything, I'm just whatever I have saved I will just passing to here, and then and at last I'm going to give this book edition to the same method. Okay, so we are creating a book here, and for that book we are creating a one record in book edition, and I just hard coded those things. We'll test this and then we will give the proper one from the input body. Okay, so I'll stop this one and run it again. I'll go and hit this one pinpoint. Oops, so we have our authorization layer, so I need to generate a access token, and this is my access token. So if you want to know this authorization and all, I have made a separate videos. You can refer my videos. So in my header I need to pass this authorization. Okay, and let me hit this. Okay, so it is ID, it is 38. The book is generated. Okay, let me check the table, book table. The last one is 38th one and corresponding to book edition. See, I have, this is a child table called book edition, and I have description, ISBN number, page, price, and last column you can see book ID, which is just 38. So let's quickly go and update the code so that it will take from the body. Going back to IntelliJ and stopping this. Now if you remember, we are taking book DTO, so book DTO dot get editions will give the list of objects. Okay, so dot, I'll just do for each. Okay, and book edition DTO this one, and I'll be moving this piece of code inside here. Okay, and instead of I'm hard coding these things, I'll take it from book DTO dot get ISBN. Same for here, book edition DTO dot get description and dot get page size, book edition dot get price. That's it. Okay, now let's clean up a little bit of this code. Let's go and try it out once. Okay, let it be start. We'll go and modify this ABC description and hit it. Oops, we have some issues here. Let's debug here. Fine, so we have book that is done, it is inserted also 40th, and now it is entering here. So book edition should have something. So book edition is null. So if you guys wanted this as an optional, okay, when we are creating a book, that time this edition is an optional field, then you can have a check, because this for each column doesn't have the check. So you guys should do like, if books dto dot get edition is not equal to a null, okay, uh, like this. Or I would suggest to go with one more condition, that is objects dot is null, and here I can say book dto dot get edition and the closing bracket. So let's stop here. And why this edition is not populating, that is one thing we have to see. So for that I will be going back to the book request dto, and it is called editions. So is it a correct word? Edition, okay, here it is. So we have to make as editions. So I hope that's the only fix. Let's start this. I'll hit it again. Okay, this time 241 is the ID. We'll check we have 41 here or not. Yes, we have 41. And book edition table, oops, we don't have that 41. Oops, if it is not null we should go. So here is the issue, is not null. Okay, so start it again. Hit one more time. Okay, 43. Let's check this table, refresh. Yes, this time we can see 43. Okay, the two records got created. So whenever you hit this one, this will be populating also. So this is how we'll be going to do parent and child columns to be populated. So thanks for watching. If you guys like this video, please press like button. If you have any doubts or any improvement, any queries, you can always add it in the comment. So thank you for watching.